time for the nitty-gritty. Conversations be real live, it's time for the nitty-gritty. The revolution's not televised, it's time for the nitty-gritty. Reaching out to your conscious mind, it's time for the nitty-gritty. More than talking and taking action, it's time for the nitty-gritty.
Yo! YouTube, we up. Facebook, we up. Yeah. Playing some of this Matt Marshall's real quick while we allow people to get into the party. You know, come view the live and everything. I don't even start. I didn't even start that early. I started 2 minutes early this week.
We have these inspections. One is so punctual, he does some weird stuff. Like, give an example. It'd be a movie that starts at 5 o'clock. One kind of person was like, oh, we need to be there by noon. Because, yes, he will. He's like, we need to be here by noon because that helps us have time to park. And then in the event we want to get food at the concessions, we can. In the event there's a long line for the movie, we can bypass that. And I want to catch the preview. So you're there like hours ahead. Like, it's to the point where sometimes we've gotten to movies and just a black screen. They haven't even do the pre-previews.
So that, if you don't have the assigned seat tickets, you got to get there early, right?
Right, but the movie starts at 5, guys. We're getting there at noon. Right.
If you don't have the assigned seat tickets, you got to get there early. Where you going? See, this is why I start early. But it's about to be 8 o'clock. See, like, it proves the whole point about being early. Like, everything she said against being early, she just literally, like, you know, made everything I said about her, right? She made legitimate everything I just said. So, come on, Kat, it's about to be like 8, for real. If y'all wondering who this is Matt Marshall's off his last project, The Last Party. Tony Fly featuring Steve Lacy. Junk Goes Hard. It's 8 o'clock now.
Alright, let's go. Hi! Welcome to the nitty-gritty show.
This sounds hard though. Yo, what's up? It's your boy Jay DeCosta.
And it is your girl Katniss.
And together we are
the Nitty Gritty.
Look, got a cool show for you today. Got a litany of different things we want to cover. One is we want to talk about abortion, the abortion felony, and them trying to ban abortion altogether in Alabama. So I want to talk about that. Want to dig into also Florida. They voted this past Wednesday to arm teachers in the classroom. So of course, you know, this platform, we like to talk a lot about our community. But so what does that mean to our kids? What does that mean to white kids? What previous data do we have to speak to that? Why that's a good or bad idea? Right? Also, I want to talk about Beto O'Rourke, give him a little bit of a time. He compared slavery to immigration or immigration to slavery. And so it's this idea of everybody trying to always compare something to slavery, right? Got to talk about that. Also, going to go into the Facebook ban and how they banned InfoWars, they banned Louis Farrakhan, and a bunch of other white-ring hate speech channels and persons on Facebook. And then also we're going to leave off with our last comment with on, you know, all these people posting like this hate post. And what I mean by that, this is not like stuff that would get you banned from Facebook, but just being a hater. If people are enjoying in-game, let them live their life and enjoy in-game. If somebody's at a basketball game, let them live their life and enjoy their basketball game. If somebody likes Game of Thrones, because you don't watch it, since you're not part of the conversation, and because you feel left out, you don't need to post something because you're thirsty for attention. We're going to get back to you though. And yes, I was shady. And I would call out names directly, but then I don't want to be a Facebook bully and then get the show banned. So yeah, we're not going to do that. So going back to the first subject, Alabama. They voted this past Wednesday to, or they're about to vote to try to ban abortion, which is going against already federal mandated laws that allow it. So that's kind of interesting, is that they're bringing that into question. But the establishment of Alabama, they're definitely for it. You know, that's like a very red state. and I think 28 of the House Democrats didn't even vote in that election. I guess because they felt like they were gonna like automatically be toppled. But keep in mind that's the Bible Belt, and I think a lot of this is being pushed by a quote unquote faith-based community.
Right, but it's silly. Okay, so here's where I stand. Being a parent is a huge commitment. And we're not even going to get into the logistics of that, but let's talk about finance. Let's talk about being able-bodied. If you feel as though you are not in a position to have a child, you should not be forced to have a child. Like, birthing a child is the closest thing women comes to when it comes to death. There are some women who, if they even have a child, they'll die. I actually know, I don't want to piss this on her, but I actually know someone who was healthy, she had a child, and she died. She died because of giving birth. To this day, that child does not know her mother. They never saw that coming. And there are people who doctors tell them, hey, this ain't gonna be a good idea with you. I have another friend who had huge birth problems. She had a stillbirth baby. So I don't feel that the choice should be taken away. And people always say, well, you shouldn't be having sex, but things are complicated. And I'll tell you here right now, if I ever got raped, and I've heard a lot of Christians say, well, if God allowed you to get raped, there must be a bigger purpose for your life. That is some of the most backward logic I have ever heard, because that is nothing of the devil. Rape is nothing of God. I would never put God and rape in the same sentence. To me, that makes me question your understanding of who God is as the creator. And basically my endpoint is that in the event I'm ever raped, or if another woman is ever raped, and you don't want to have that child, you have the right to not have that child. I don't want to have that child. And in the event you are young and not established, maybe you're 15, you made a mistake, you got pregnant, and you feel like, you know what, I don't want I don't want my life to be altered because I am incapable and I'm not mature enough to have a child, you have that right. You sure do. Or maybe there's a father in the picture who says, you know what, I really don't want to be a dad right now. And maybe this one is like, well, I don't want to be a single parent, so since you don't want to step up to the plate, be a dad, and I guess we're going to take, have another decision. You should have the right. The same way we fight for gay rights, women should have rights to their body. The same way we fight for rights of immigrants, women should have rights to their bodies. The same way we fight for black rights, women should have rights to our bodies. We can't pick and choose civil rights.
So, and then a lot of this is an attempt to also try to start slowly reversing Roe versus Wade. In the Roe versus Wade abortion rights decision, one thing that they're trying to challenge, so I think it's Representative Terry Collins, she's a Republican out of the Decatur area. She was saying that abortion would be okay, or at least how they're defining the bill. Maybe I should give some little backstage. So one of the things they're challenging is they would still allow women to have the abortions if it's due to health risk, but the doctor would be a felon if he performed a actual abortion, and outside of that reason. And they're not making an amendment for in the situation of rape or incest. So I think that's kind of crazy that you're going to force somebody to keep a child that's forced into them. We don't look at it that way. I understand that everybody says like you want to recognize the child as life from the very beginning. I understand where they're coming from. I'm not saying I agree with. I'm just saying I understand their thought process and everything like that, right? But I think it's to the point where it's such a right wing, such a, I guess, a church, a religious agenda. I won't even say a faith agenda. It's a religious agenda. And then it's also coded in a hint of a lot of times racism or covert racism. When you think about sometimes the demographics in the effect, the people that draw benefits from this, the people who who are more than likely to deal with these situations. So sometimes it's not just looking at a problem on the surface, but when you hear someone saying we're trying to overturn Roe versus Wade and all the things that fall under that, you got to see the larger implications of what they're coming after. And once you leave a piece in there, it's kind of like, okay, well, how much further is this thing going to go? I don't, as a man,
Excuse me,
I don't agree with it because, and as a Christian, I don't agree with it. As a man, I don't agree with it because I don't have to bear a child. I got 3. I didn't have to bear none of them. So it's kind of like, I never had to deal with that pain. So congratulations to them for dealing with that, right? So who am I to say to any woman, for whatever reason, you're going to force them to have a child and to say that's a felony. Now, is it a moral thing that you could talk about in a different platform? Sure. But to make it a legal argument is where I have to step in and say that's not right. Same thing from a Christian standpoint. There's a lot of Christians say, oh, like abortion is wrong, yada, yada, yada. And you're allowed to have your moral ground, and you're allowed to have your moral opinion, and you're allowed to speak freely about your moral thought process. That's our amendment speech, in which, I'm going to kind of touch on that again when we talk about Facebook. But I think too often Christians try to legislate the Bible's views on how one should live versus spread the gospel of how one can be saved by this Christ that died for them.
And that's what God wanted us to do. He didn't ask you to be legalistic.
Yeah.
He didn't ask you to be, and most of half of you are not even called to ministry. He didn't ask you to be the author and finisher and dictator and legislator. He asked you to preach the gospel, to preach the good news, and to offer Jesus Christ to people. That is your job, your only job. Other than that, homosexuality, abortion, that's for God to decide, not you.
I don't think it's something that we should try to legislate. Just like people always ask me, like, well, if you're a Christian, why are you supporting gay marriage? My thing is like, why am I trying to legislate? I don't approve of legislating my faith. If you're doing your job as a Christian, and this is for all the Christian viewers out there, why would you not consider saying, you know what, let me love on this person. I know I have a difference of opinion on how they're deciding to live and how they're living, but let me decide to love on them, and maybe I can get to the root of why this abortion is taking place. It might be avoidable through conversation, but if you're just going to say, we're going to legislate it out because of my faith-based reasons, I think we're going about taking care of that the wrong way. For interviewers out there, give your thoughts. I'll be curious to see what you guys have to say on that.
There's just one thing I want to bring up before we move on. The one reason why I feel like this kind of legislation is very harmful is because can you imagine all the women that are going to go to back alley operations to get stuff done?
Yeah, that's the thing.
And possibly die.
Yeah, I mean, there's a humane way of what they've legislated as to how to do it. But I think, we need to take a step back when we're trying to force our moral values or our religious values or something that you would call faith-based, and you're trying to force it into legislation. Because this country was founded on the idea of allowing people to practice their faith and, those things to your free will, then you have freedom of speech, and I think you start imposing on that when you do that. But I would say go read the article. A lot of great information if you just do your research. There's a lot of weight behind that, so look into it. Speaking into other laws, there's Florida. So this past Wednesday, there was a bill that was approved from 2018 to allow teachers to be armed in the school system. I totally disagree with it. The Florida House voted 65-47 with 8 absentee votes. The Senate then voted last week 22-17. So yeah, go ahead and get your phone. You know to mute your phones. So anyways, the Senate voted 22-17, so it did pass that version of the bill. Basically what it's allowing teachers to do is to carry weapons to defend themselves. They're saying that this is in response to the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting at Parkland that left 17 people dead. Now, my issue with this is I don't mind an officer being in the school. I think a lot of us seen that growing up. I don't mind, having, safety precautions, checking bags if it's necessary. If that's what we got to do to keep people safe. Yo, what up, Brent? Whatever we got to do to keep our kids safe, to a certain extent, yes. The teachers are not trained professionals when using the weapon. And the thing is, officers are trained professionals when using a weapon, but we have seen countless times, we could go over so many names where that weapon was still used to kill someone when there wasn't a safety of life issue present. There was no need for deadly force. So if officers can't get it right, what make you think teachers can? And to shout out Rashawn Ray, good brother, he actually made a comment on IG not too long ago, and he has an extensive study talking about how black kids are more so disciplined than other children in the classroom. So if black kids are already at a handicap when it comes to how they're viewed and how things can be weaponized against them, how soon do you think it's going to take in the state of Florida for a black kid to end up killed by a white teacher because they feel like their life is threatened? You know, like, it's so obvious. It's been talked about time and time again in larger platforms and in so many ways. But I just don't think that people see this. And for our white viewers, this is not our way of saying we hate you or we don't dislike you. We give you this information as well because we want you to be armed with it so you can know how to be allies towards justice. I do think, I'm going to go out on a limb at least and believe, there are a lot of white people out there that don't agree with the hostile bias that black people have to deal with. But I think a lot of people are comfortable in their white privilege, or they're just comfortable being on the sidelines. It might not even be a white privilege issue. It might be a simple issue as you don't want to rock the boat. Meanwhile, though, people are being harmed and killed. And I think it's going to take all of us, you know, to take care of this issue of racism and bias, implicit bias. And, IG, shout out to Brent. It's a horrible idea. I agree with you. There will be a lot of black students dying by the hands of white teachers. And I definitely see that happening. Unfortunately, I'm not trying to be negative.
I don't think it has.
I just don't see that it's a good approach.
For me, it has nothing to do with white, black, blue, yellow. I don't care what ethnicity you are. We have already seen time and time again that guns in America is just not a good idea. So I don't even care about the rights. I just feel like putting guns into schools, and we've seen school shootings happen time and time again, just to me contradicts, and it's kind of disrespectful to the people who have lost their life to gun violence in a school. Secondly, I feel like when it comes to black and brown kids, I feel like we need to hire more teachers that look like them into those communities. I will say from my own personal experience, this is not me playing devil's advocate, this is me being truthful, I find that a lot of times black kids know not to try as much stuff with a black teacher versus when we had white teachers. I feel like my fellow classmates were extremely disrespectful because they were like, he ain't gonna do nothing, he's some little punk white guy or whatever.
And that's not right either.
No, it's not. So the point I'm trying to make is that I feel like if you are of a different ethnicity teaching in a very impoverished, predominantly black neighborhood, my suggestion is to get to know the community, get to know what these kids are going through at home, and kind of buck up some. Like if you're gonna come with some discipline so they know that you ain't the one. And I think from there you'll be alright. But if you come like, oh, I was just so scared, you're gonna always get punked. But if you come there like, look, straight up, I'm here to teach, sit your black butt down, you about to get go back to the principal's office, they ain't gonna mess with you. So you kind of gotta be prepared for the environment, is all I'm trying to say. Meaning, it doesn't justify you having a gun. If you don't feel comfortable in that environment, you shouldn't take the job there.
Well, the thing is, I think, and I'm going to read a comment off of IG from Brent, but I think the thing that needs to be said is people need to start communicating with folks that don't look like them and that don't think like them, because what happens is then once you have a relationship, you have better understanding. So if you see students talking loud, or if you see someone using an aggressive tone, but if you understand the culture, you'll be like, oh yeah, they're just playing around, right? But when you don't know the culture, it's too easy to perceive or to misunderstand what a thing is, and then you'll take the road of saying, oh, this is a problem, when there is actually no problem at all. And we see this a lot with police. I think that's why this is important, that police and teachers live or just any public servant, you should live and work in the areas that you serve, you know, so that it become a part of that culture. So that way, if you hear loud music, you don't automatically assume, oh, it's a problem. You're like, oh, it's a barbecue. Oh, it's some good food over here. You know, there's a lot to benefit from just enjoying other cultures.
But can we take this a step further and talk about two things that I think are reasons why we're even having conversations like this or legislation is being proposed, i.e. we don't even get to know our neighbors.
My man Chris McKinney agreed.
When the last time we had a block party, or what was it called, a neighborhood cookout? I can't even remember what it's called, but back in the day in the 90s, that was a big thing. So that way, if I'm acting up, my neighbor 3 doors down would know my name, and they'd be like, Mr. and Mrs. Hawkins, your daughter was out here acting fool.
Yeah, we need to build communities.
You don't have that. Also, when is the last time, if we're being honest, I have a lot of friends that are teachers, and they tell me up front that they don't even want to be teachers anymore. I've had friends that have retired from being teachers very, very early. You know why? The kids were unruly. Parenting, nowadays I'm not a parent. So please don't get offended, but it seems like it's something going on with parents not being parents. I don't know.
That's a different conversation. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but there is something to that. To get back to Brent on IG, he said, it's not being negative, it's being real. As you stated, if cops can't get it right, teachers won't. Absolutely agree. He also said cats on point. 2, they don't know how to deal with non-white children. Exactly. They are afraid of their own children, so they see black children as threatening.
That's true, right? If you can't yoke somebody up, if you don't have authority in your own home, if your kids don't fear you, then I don't want my kids to fear you. There is something to be said when the base of a father says stop. We feared our father. We knew what was up. We knew what time it was. So yeah, you're right. If you telling Johnny to come in the house, he's like, well, F off mom and F off dad. I do what I wanted to.
They be kirking out. But you know, there's not a balance between love and discipline, right? To quote some James Dobson books, the issue is in certain communities you see it more so than others. There's not a balance between love and discipline. Love is, you know, the things we do for our children, the way we nurture our children. That's a big part of how they grow. But the second half of it has to have the equal balance, which is also the discipline. And discipline is not abuse, right? I don't agree with the whole notion of beating the kids behind across a house 30 minutes long. But you know, but a quick tap, or, you know, like some structured punishment to say, hey, let's do some push-ups. My kids know I'll put you down in the front lean rest position in a heartbeat, right? Or, you know, doing some wall sits, you know, things of that nature. That's a good way to discipline. They're taking away of privileges. But there has to be a consistency of both love and discipline. And I think that's lacking. They go to the Facebook comments. Chris said that's something that we're doing here in KC, Kansas City. I would like you to elaborate. Chris said stand in the corner, but you know what, they only go to the corner when they know that there's a recourse to them leaving that corner, and that's why, you know, a quick little to the behind.
But there's also a lack of male leadership, whether it's church, whether it's school. There's a lot of women who are running, and I love my women, don't get me wrong, but there is something to be said when you have male presence, male telling you stop. There's that base, there's that authority, and generally, whether you are a little boy or a little girl, you're going to fall in line when a man tell you to sit down.
There is something to that. We kind of talked about it last week. I'm not going to, you know, beat a dead horse or, you know, regurgitate something that, you know, if you want to know what we talked about last week, go watch.
That was him and Spin. I wasn't here, but go ahead.
But you kind of sat in from time to time.
No,
but
go for it.
One thing we talked about a little bit was, you know, this idea of, you know, especially in our community, blacks not entering certain workplaces that we, you know, historically haven't touched. And I think that kind of coincides with that is, you know, we need to start going into places of work that it may not be popular, it may not be sexy, but it's needed to have our presence there. So yeah, we definitely need more black male teachers, and I know for a fact we need more, not just black in this case, we need more male nurses. But people look down on a man being a nurse, but there's jobs where a man's strength could be very much appreciated in the nursing arena.
Nurses get paid,
they get paid good money, especially travel nurses. Man, I'm about to say, I'm talking.
And you live the life. They bought out and get stipends. It's a good job.
Yeah.
Look, in my next life, I might be a nurse.
Hey, I feel you. Chris said, right, I will not talk 100 times, agreeing to the parenting point. Moving on to the next thing, we also wanted to talk about Beto O'Rourke. And not so much talk about Beto O'Rourke and his comments about his comparison of immigration to slavery or modern day bondage, right? You know, because of the long hours of work. And don't get me wrong, it's an issue. I'm not negating that immigration and the use of, you know, underpaid employees is not an issue in America. Well, I think we can agree there. But I think too often, and Kat, you were saying this before we went live, too often people want to compare stuff to slavery. Let's stop with that. Slavery, for one, let's go ahead and say what you were saying earlier. I don't want to steal all your thunder, your words.
Slavery is something that I don't think anybody, the human mind of today, can even conceptualize or even fathom, just due to how cruel, how grimace it was. I mean, from the whole journey, from getting on the slave ship to half on the slave boat not even making it, or jumping over, or dying of disease, to getting over here and being a slave for the rest of your life, trying to fight for freedom and getting body parts mutilated, to being raped. to working sun up to sundown, till your fingers bleed, till your feet bleed, to getting hand-me-downs, to being malnutrition, to being forced to have kids with somebody who you don't even love, and then when you finally have the kid, they're being sold elsewhere. I mean, just the mental, emotional, and physical toll that it took on slaves that we still see remnants of in our generation lets me know that when people compare it to slavery, it's like it's so illogical. I don't think the human mind can even conceptualize what slavery really was. So I feel like we just
or the emotional trauma that they lived through.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a lot of emotional trauma now. I can speak for myself as a black man. The emotional trauma you deal with seeing brothers brutally killed by someone that looks like them, or even the trauma you have to deal with knowing that a brother gets killed by someone obeying the law, but because someone of another, community or another race or color, they have this inherent bias about what black people are through a biased media, and therefore will disregard this innocent black man's life, right? But then have this appreciation for Dylan Roof, the way they took him down, or all the other countless white shooters that were taken down in a calm process. Like, how can you be calm with someone who's already claimed 17 bodies, 9 bodies, 52 bodies, whatever the number is, but then somehow a black man just sitting in a car that you pulled over? He didn't approach you. He didn't ask to be pulled over. You pulled him over. And a lot of times, there is no broken tail light. There isn't no problem with the vehicle. It's just that you see a black man and you just assume because he's in a nice car or just because he's driving, I have to pull him over because maybe there's something wrong. But then you have the nerve to still be scared when you approach him.
Allegedly.
You get what I'm saying? Allegedly, right? So I think, when you start comparing stuff, and that's just modern day trauma as a black man that I have to deal with and consider, or multiple others like me deal with. And people outside of my community probably feel the same way. I'm pretty sure there's some Latin brothers that feel the same way when they're out and about.
I'm going to ask you a very tough question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think black folks are too forgiving, and that a lot of our quote-unquote forgiveness is rooted in, obviously, Christianity? Because when that boy went into that church and shut up that church, they were like, oh, we forgive him. We know that God has something more. Like, what?
So I will say this. I may not be at a place to where I may not be able to forgive in that situation, but I'm not going to knock someone, because I've heard this debate before, right? I'm not going to knock someone for being, I guess, what some would view as too forgiving. And I say that only because, just like I don't want someone telling me not to protest, right? Because that's my reaction to how I feel, my oppression, my angst, the thing that I see that's not right in society. I'm not going to in turn tell somebody how to deal with whatever it is they're dealing with. And maybe the way of them dealing and moving past, which for their own sake, for their own health, may be saying, I forgive you. I may not forget. I may not trust you with an M16. I may not want you in my church after that. But to say forgiving, for them, that might just be something that helps cleanse them of something. In any countless situation, I'm not going to be mad at someone that says, I want to forgive that spouse. I want to forgive that child. I want to forgive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think we could tell somebody or say there's a limit to how much you might want to forgive or not forgive.
So the reason why I brought the question up is because there is an argument that throughout history, from slavery to now, through Jim Crow, it seems like black folks are forgiving, or that we kind of allowed things to happen. Not saying that it's our fault. I don't. But it's funny though, because it's like, when were we in history going to really rise up the whole, like, even like non-protest, and we're going to let the dogs attack us, and we're going to just walk straight, and they're going to let them spit at us, and we're going to just sit at the countertop. And it's like, when are we going to actually give them that same energy that they gave us? And I mean, maybe that isn't the way, but because in history we haven't had a large movement where we've given that same energy. I don't know, it may have different results.
And this might be a conversation we need to have again, but I will say this. When you think about the true methodology behind the Freedom Riders, Martin Luther King, the reason why they dealt with being spit on, the reason why they dealt with being attacked with water hoses is, mind you, back then you didn't have camera phones. So they were just doing the best they can to get exposure to the national media, which they didn't have any voice in, to expose what's being done to black folks. Because you got to understand that some of the small rural towns, they would, the mismessaging, kind of like the mismessaging we see with Trump even today, but the mismessaging to rural towns was, oh, these black people are rioting and causing all these problems, so that's why we have the National Guard spraying them with hoses. So they weren't always given the full picture of why was something happening. So when they was able to get it in media, and when they were able, you know, the newspapers or TV at the time, they were able to show like, no, these black folks aren't actually doing anything wrong. They're not causing the problem. People are voluntarily going to them to do that. Now I think we're past that point because it's obvious where the issues are. I think we can learn something from other communities, or we can learn something from the United States military. When Japan bombed us, we know we did what we did to them, but at the end of the day, to this day, we still have Japan occupation via a military base. Mm-hmm. Japan is clearly an ally. They're clearly a capitalist country, but we still have occupation there because we had a problem with them literally like 80 years ago, right? Germany, right? That was in the 1940s. We still have multiple German bases to this day because once upon a time they were a problem. We have bases in Italy. We still have bases in Iraq, Afghanistan, across the whole world. Anywhere we've ever had conflict. It's not to say that, okay, we're going to keep on shooting at you and causing you problems. We'll allow you to self-govern yourself. But because we knew you were a problem once upon a time, we have now built in place assurances. And I feel like the black community could take note. It's like, all right, we'll allow you to be better people and better citizens, but it's not to say we won't infiltrate this type of job sector to ensure that our black men won't die by the hands of police. It's not to say that we won't become prosecutors at a higher rate to ensure that our young men get a fair deal when going across prosecution. So I think we could take a lesson from the Army, which is, hey, let's just build, just a little bit of confidence in the situation going forward. So let's just put some precautions in place, whether that's us being more involved in that, getting laws changed to make sure it doesn't help, and then also with the changing of the laws, the enforcement of laws, right?
I think reparations should have been happened, but
that could be that's a possibility. I rocks with that.
There's an interview, by the way, everybody you guys should check out. It's between Trevor Nova and Charlamagne. They talk about that, and it's a really good interview.
Oh yeah, that's an amazing interview. I feel like people should watch it. Like one thing about the nitty-gritty, we never want to be the end-all, be-all source of information on where to get things, but I hope that we can point people to accurate information that you can use, which actually, being that we are a Facebook presence, we're an IG presence, we're a YouTube presence, it kind of brings me on to our next subject, which is the Facebook bans that they just placed. Now, I agree with, from a personal standpoint, I agree with the ban of Alex Jones and InfoWars. But at the same time, from the practice of freedom of speech, quote, hear me people, because I know black Twitter and does, black social media want to come from my head and be like, oh, one supports Alex Jones and InfoWars and all the bull crap he talks about. No, I'm not supporting that. But I feel like people should be allowed to speak whatever they speak. Because then because when you silence, and Charlamagne the God said this, but I agree with it, and I'll take it a little bit further. When you silence those voices from even saying anything, then it's like you don't know what they're thinking. And I'd rather somebody spout all the dumb crap they think so we can in turn fact check it and correct it and say, yo, you dead wrong. And because what we have seen is that there's been Trump supporters, there's been right-wing supporters that have believed a thing. And then when given actual facts that they can research and all that, some have changed their mind. But it gives you a parallel to fight against. So I don't know if I totally agree with the ban. Personally, from a biased perspective, I'm so happy they kicked that ban off. And there's a couple other people I want them to kick off with them. And then to include in that number, they got rid of Laura Loomer, Milo, I can't say his name, Joseph Watson, and then Paul Nealon. A couple of these people were kicked off of Facebook for hate speech. I didn't agree with, and this is not a bias thing, they took off Louis Farrakhan because they said his comments were anti-Semitic. And I don't agree with that because he never once. And then if the information is there, please somebody correct me. But
Go check it out.
all right, Cat's gonna be right back. Just checking on some food. I don't agree with Louis Farrakhan being kicked off because I don't know of a time where he said anything that was hateful, like we should kill people of Jewish descent or we should go against people of Jewish descent. I feel like they was doing that to say, oh, so they're balancing the tide. I think Facebook was looking at this from a strategic standpoint to say, oh, look, we're not that pro-liberal. Oh, we're not just leftist. See, we got rid of Louis Farrakhan too. I feel like they did that to say it's balanced. I don't like that personally because I don't know of a time where Louis Farrakhan said anything hateful about that community. And if you guys are a smart audience, you please correct me in the comments. You let me know if I'm wrong. But I don't know of a time where he's done that. I do feel like sometimes when you're dealing with the conversation of being anti-Semitic is that people will take things that the Hebrew Israelites say as anti-Semitic. But then the only thing they're doing is challenging factual history, right? That's been miswritten. Is that anti-Semitic? I mean, to do your history on Jesus, and when you look at who killed him, it was his own people that killed him. That's not an anti-Semitic comment, like when they came to Mel Gibson for trying to put a realistic portrayal of the story of Jesus. But they said he was anti-Semitic. Now, he did say some stuff when he was drunk that might have been anti-Semitic. Like it was all the Jews' fault, we should kill all the Jews. He did say that crap. But the movie itself wasn't an anti-Semitic message. If you guys can follow where I'm going. Quick comments from IG from Brent. Amen to that. Gotta know what the enemy is saying, thinking at all times. Got you.
I also think that, Juan and I have been going to Kaya on Wednesdays. I do think that when people have strong opinions that are against the Bible, I think it behooves Christians to listen, not necessarily take it in, but to listen so that you can actually see
all people
what their perspective is, because then that makes you a better Christian, possibly to be able to actually witness them. I think many of us are not even well studied, so when someone says something negative about the Bible, we just, I shame you, and we just Bible bash, but we're not even really listening to their perspective, because I feel like if you are well studied, you can at least be able to understand how they got there. Doesn't mean that it's right, but if you're able to understand how someone got there, I think it kind of helps you better communicate.
Exactly, and I think that's the problem. I think we're so divided, and you know what? And the thing is, people have these conspiracy theories of being puppets, and at times I can really see that because the truth of the matter is the plight of poor whites is no different than disenfranchised blacks. Oriental, Asian, cultures, Spanish cultures, whatever the case is. And this idea that, us versus them keeps us from communicating. So therefore, we don't see that there's a common ground in how rich people are just getting over in America. And if we were to bound together against that, black or white, whatever minority, right? You would really topple the system of power, but we're so busy fighting over something that's really stupid. So I feel like there's something to that in communicating. Before I go any further, let me take a break and read from our IG from Brent. He said, I don't agree with Minister Farrakhan's ban either, but they had to, as you say, balance it. They weren't going to kick some of theirs out without kicking out Minister Farrakhan.
Hello.
Exactly. Then he also goes on to say, I don't agree with everything the minister says, but he has valid points and offends people because of some of his truths. And then he says, speak J. DaCosta. I appreciate it, brother.
There's some other thing about what's the guy's name who's the Imhotep or Hotep? What's his name?
Dr. Umar Johnson.
Yeah, we don't agree with everything he says, but he does make some valid points.
And just because, or let's think about people like Killer Mike and countless others, they have strong opinions.
Killer Mike,
but I don't believe that any of these people are necessarily racist or anti-white, but they do have to speak strongly about a pro-black stance. And that's why even on this show, we've had, I guess what you would call that ultra Hotep or whatever, pro-black stance. I would say this show more so is probably a moderate liberal show. I think if you had to throw us into a category possibly. But we do welcome all. And it's with that in mind there's been some people that say, oh, we haven't had a Republican on the show. I'll be happy to have a Republican on the show.
Yeah.
I know one in office or who ran for office personally. If we could just get the dates right, he would come on. And I don't feel like every Republican is anti, the things that better America. I think what happens is the loudest voices in the room happen to be those individuals, and they're more easily identified. Same way on the liberal side, there's some people that's like they seem super extreme, but those voices are just heard because they're the loudest voices typically. But I think a lot of us can actually effectively communicate here in the middle, and we just need to start furthering that communication. So this is my official invitation. If you haven't heard it before, if you're a Republican in the area, I would love to have you on the Nitty Gritty Show. Please reach out to us in the comments. You can message us. We can exchange numbers, information. Let's try to get you here on the show. And this is not going to be an attack, but it will be a conversation like all of our conversations to better understand one another. And, see if we can find some common ground and some solutions, right?
I don't consider myself a Democrat or Republican. There are some things that Republicans say and do that I actually do agree with. I just feel that most politics don't consider or really care about me as far as my double jeopardy being black and that I'm a woman.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's like, I wouldn't say that I'm Democratic either. I have to register a party to vote, but in my heart,
I want to take place in also the primary elections, and in this close state like Maryland, you have to vote or be one of them.
Yeah, but these politicians don't care about you.
Yep. So now we have one more subject before we close.
And we got 5 minutes.
Yeah. So we're gonna hit this hard. If you got your comments, throw them out.
Hard.
So since we were talking about Facebook ban, something I wish they would ban, but they're not, and I agree with y'all, freedom to believe whatever you want. But I do want to help you realize how stupid you guys sound, right? So you didn't watch a movie, you didn't watch a show, you didn't participate in an event, not for a protest reason. I can understand the people that spoke out against watching football, right? Because some of the same people complaining about police brutality didn't participate in a protest that helped fight police brutality or help damage an industry to the point that they have to hear our voices. And that silence the voices of athletes that want to express their feelings on police brutality. So that I want you to be able to see the difference, because some of you little cuckoos won't see the difference. And you'll make a comment and you'll make yourself look stupid. And I know that's not nice for me to say stupid, but I'm going to call it what it is. It's stupid. So the difference here is some of you didn't watch a movie because you're not into comic books. And guess what? That's fine, because I'm a geek. So there's a reason why girls was feeling me in high school and middle school. You get what I'm saying? Because I was a geek. And that was fine. That was their choice to do whatever they do and hook up with whoever they want to hook up with, right? But some of us have invested time since we were a kid into comic books. So we got excited. So we used our platforms and post about how we were excited about a movie. That's not harming you. That's not in any way coming at you personally because you didn't watch the movie. We didn't say if you didn't watch Endgame, you whack and you lame. We just said Endgame was amazing. Can't believe they put that together. 10 years of movies, and to give me this satisfaction was amazing.
I thought Endgame deserved to be. It was a B movie to me. If I had to give it an A to an F, it was a B. Solid B.
All right, and that's cool, right? People like Game of Thrones. They like shows like The Walking Dead, whatever they're watching. But we know Game of Thrones is the big target, right? People been watching this show for 7 seasons now.
8.
We're on the 8th season.
Right.
They've been watching for 7. You get what I'm saying?
Okay.
Never mind. So and we're on the 8th season, and we're excited. It's like, oh, it's a great show.
We waited the whole year to change
to get this show. We didn't get on Facebook and say, hey,
y'all whack
because you don't watch Game of Thrones. You're stupid because you don't watch Game of Thrones. All we said to other Game of Thrones fans, since you're not, when we weren't talking to you, was, hey, go such and such from such and such house. Oh my God, this show was so amazing. Blah, 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 blah. And when we were making those comments, we weren't talking to you. We were talking to other Game of Thrones fans. So you can have several seats and sit down.
There's one comment that I saw. How y'all really about the culture when you watching a show that's an all-white cast?
It is based in a European platform, area.
The thing is, because you don't watch the show, you don't know that Grey Worm Barack Obama lookalike actually is black, and so was Melisande.
But not just that. It's like, why can't people just enjoy television? Just enjoy.
Here's the thing. Let's be completely transparent. Game of Thrones is one of the best shows I have ever seen, ever. So here's the thing. Yeah, like Juan said, it's rooted in a European time frame. But if anything, if we're gonna be all pro, my pro was let me learn what I can learn about Game of Thrones and how to make a dope show like that. So the next time I can make an all-black cast with just as much funding and backing behind it to be as dope as Game of Thrones.
But it's so stupid though, right? And I'm still using the word stupid. And if you're offended, I'm coming for you, right? Because then it's like, I can see if it was a movie like Gods of Egypt, where it's based in Africa and I barely see any black people. That's a time where you like, that would be the time where you say, oh, y'all black folks watching this show, but it's whitewashed. I would get that. But in this case, nobody was talking to you, all right? It's not applicable. If you're mad because you're not getting enough attention or likes that day, because the hottest thing on television was Game of Thrones, or the hottest thing that weekend was Endgame, I'm sorry, boo-boo, if you haven't watched it, you're not going to get that many likes that day. Just deal with not being noticed.
I think it's because people are feeling left out, and they know
that's exactly what it is.
They know, like, dang, if I really want to catch up, well, two things. One, I got to be into, like,
they don't get the memes, they don't get the jokes, and they feel left out.
That, and I think it's like
childish.
Two things. Is one, now I got to be really into medieval stuff, which I'm not, and then two, I'm 8 seasons behind, and I don't know how I'm gonna catch up. So instead of me,
because you're not gonna catch up, you missed the train already.
And if you talk about some, here's one last thing before we go. People who be complaining about spoilers. I'm sorry, but you had a whole year and a half of no Game of Thrones to just watch and catch up. So you best believe I'm gonna spoil every time an episode come on. I'm gonna be on Facebook. Hold on. I'm gonna be on Facebook, being real petty, like, yes, Arya killed the Night King. Spoiler alert. The Red Wedding, the mama died too. Yes, I was spoiling it for everybody because you had time to watch it.
But
I don't feel bad.
But wait a minute, let's clarify so that way you just don't sound like a mean person. First of all, there's a difference from spoiling a movie, right? And there's a difference between spoiling live TV. Let me break it down for you, right? Because some of y'all still stupid, right? I'll start calling some people stupid, but whatever.
I don't get it. Break it down.
So, to spoil Endgame is a jerk move because there's finite seats as far as who can watch the movie, right? So therefore, I feel like if you're going to talk about or spoil a movie, you should wait till Monday morning because you have most of the weekend to get a chance to watch it in time. Mm-hmm. And if you're afraid of spoilers, you stay off of social media like I did.
So you're saying like a 3-day period?
For movies.
Okay.
And the reason why I say for movies, because with movies, like I said, there's finite seats.
That's fair.
Right? And so just because we went Thursday at 7, that doesn't mean that the person who bought their ticket already in advance for Saturday, that would be kind of rude for us to get out there and just start talking about the movie.
So opening weekend, that's your block.
Now, TV is a little different. This is why TV is a little different. Because at TV, everybody has an opportunity to watch it live at the same time. So at that point, it becomes open property for everyone because it's live TV. After it goes off, it's like you should have the wherewithal or the understanding to say, you know what? Let me not get on social media because you know what? Cats is going to be talking about XYZ show. I don't want it spoiled. I know they're watching it live right now. It's like you getting mad at me for making it a comment about the American Music Awards or the BET Awards or the Oscars.
The people who are mad about it is the people who are trying to catch up and they're like on season 7 and they're like, oh, why
you're just stay off.
But it's like you had, sorry, I don't have any empathy when it comes to any show, maybe perhaps, but with Game of Thrones, they literally, for all of 2017, there was not one Game of Thrones show. You had time to sit. You could have took a whole year to catch up. Sorry, you missed the bus. Us fans have been waiting for a whole year, and we are here, and we are not, like, I'm getting ready to get myself ready for Game of Thrones, and I'm not going to not talk about it on social media because you're upset. Same thing with social media habits. That's another thing I want to end on. If someone is tweeting too much or posting too much on Facebook and you're irritated, unfollow them. That's your problem.
The key to dealing
That's not their problem.
The key to dealing with annoyance on Facebook, right? It's really simple. You block people, you unfollow them, you unfriend them.
If someone's giving you nothing negativity, you look up and every time somebody disagree with you, they like it. Every time they got something to say, you want to follow them. This whole, I'm going to put the onus on you because you're annoying me. You people do understand when someone annoys you, you do realize it's you that's annoyed.
But you're choosing. It's one thing.
You're choosing to be bothered.
But you're choosing to be annoyed by following them. Like, you get what I'm saying? It's one thing to be annoyed by a coworker. You just can't tell them to leave the job, right? But it's another thing to be annoyed by somebody on social media because you choose to see their post. If you don't like what they posting, if you don't like what they saying, if you don't want to be disagreeing with them all day, it's really quick. You go click, 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 unfollow. I didn't unfollow many of people. I didn't have people reach out to me. Why did you unfollow me? But first of all, think of it this way. This is your benefit. Why would you want me following you if I'm annoyed by you? Or if I don't like you?
Or you don't like me?
You shouldn't want me following you anyways. The only thing I'm giving to you is bad energy every time I see you. Yeah. Why would you want to receive my bad energy? So let me do us both a favor. I'll unfollow you. I won't see you. So I won't be vexed by you. And then you don't have to see me making crazy comments in your comments or liking everybody that dislikes something that you said. Because it's all really petty. We are grown. Some of us. So let's act like we are.
For yourself. Yep. Well, that's it. It's 8:48.
Go off on a strong note. You know what I'm saying? You know, smack them strong.
Yeah. So yeah.
Thank you guys for joining. Leave your comments.
Early
let us know how you feel.
It's Sunday and we watch Game of Thrones.
How you gonna rush me after you started a whole nother conversation?
No, let people know why we're ending early. We usually end at 9. But
yeah, we ended now.
We get prepared for Game of Thrones in this house and peace.
Some more Matt Martians, the drum corps theory, Southern Isolation, dope album, dope track. If you haven't heard of Matt Martians, go check them out. We out. It's your boy J.D. Costa.
It's your girl Katniss.
And together we are the Nitty Gritty. We out of here. Thanks for joining y'all.